The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. It's your midweek fix for racing news and information. Brought to you by the Championship Racing Network. Now let's head trackside to join your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson.
Hey, welcome into the latest edition of Crossed Flags. I'm Steve West alongside Matt Nicholson. We appreciate you joining us here. And coming up a little bit later on, we're going to talk about scheduling because NASCAR continues to get closer and closer to releasing the schedule, and they just keep giving us bits and pieces. We'll also talk about Austin Dillon and the saga of the penalties. But real quick before we get into the main topic, or our first topic of the day, Williams, silly season continues over there to the point where we know that 2025, they were going to have a different driver. They're getting rid of Logan Sargent, the one American-born driver that's currently in, and they were going to replace him with Carlos Sainz next year. Logan Sargent's already out. Officially, as of yesterday. Word came down. They were like, you know what? That really expensive crash in third practice over the weekend, yeah, that was enough. We're done. We'll give you all the details coming up on Saturday during the big show. Remind you, Saturday during the big show starts 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time. You can go to CRN Live on YouTube. You can catch it then, and we'll give you all the details on this and all the things that have been happening this week. But let's go back to Sunday. Or Saturday, I should say, Saturday evening, because some pretty cool stories happened. We got a first-time winner in NASCAR. And then there's so much depth to that story. Congratulations, though, to one Harrison Burton. Harrison Burton got his first ever win in the Cup Series by winning at Daytona, and this is a not unusual thing.
Sure.
More than one driver's gotten their first win in a Daytona or a Talladega, because it is kind of the great equalizer.
It really is. And, you know, when it's super speedway racing at its finest, if you can start the car, you can put it in gear and roll off a pit road and keep it in one piece, you've got a legitimate shot.
Yeah, as long as that car can keep up with the draft, keep up with the pack, you've got a legitimate chance of doing what he did and parking that car in victory lane. Now, if you're looking at that car, that's a pretty famed number 21. That's the Wood Brothers number. I don't care whatever happens from now until the end of time. When it comes to NASCAR, number 21, like the number 43, like the number 3, certain numbers just stick with certain people. In this case, 43 is always Richard Petty, right? 3 is always going to be Dale Earnhardt. It doesn't matter what anybody ever does. 21 is always going to be the Wood Brothers.
It is.
And with that win, Harrison Burton becomes the answer to a trivia question. Who got them their 100th win as an organization? So congratulations to the Wood Brothers. Congratulations to Harrison Burton. And oh, by the way, at the end of the year, Harrison, you're gone. Okay. But this had been in the works, truth be told. I mean, Harrison Burton's been, this is what, year 3 for him?
Year 3. Yep.
He's in his
year 3.
Third year in the Cup Series, and he hadn't really shown, even at a Daytona and Talladega, he hadn't shown what we saw last Saturday night.
He's only shown flashes.
Yeah.
And they've been tiny flashes.
Yeah. So they decided, about 6 weeks ago or so?
Something like that, yeah.
That they were going to replace him. So Harrison Burton was out, and they announced that Josh Berry, one of the soon-to-be exiled Stewart-Haas racing guys, is going to take over that car next year. So Josh Berry will go from the 4 to the number 21. Harrison Burton is now looking for a ride. You being the resident driver, you would know this better than I do. In the situation where you are looking for a ride,
You're right.
you claiming a checkered flag, especially at Daytona, that only helps your resume.
It does. I mean, it can't hurt it. It can only help it. You put number 100 on the check and check the box of number 100 for the Wood Brothers. You kept your car clean. You were one of only 7 cars through the entire race that did not have any type of damage, whether it be scratch or you got the whole front clip knocked off. You was one of only 7. You kept your stuff in one piece. You did your job at the end of the race. Even though you only led the final lap, it's the one that counts. Lap 1 doesn't count. Lap 80 doesn't count. Lap 160 counted Saturday night. So kudos to him. But the one major problem that I have that I kept seeing people flash through on social media from Saturday, and this was the one that I was thinking was going to be the sneaky one and slip through and go, hey, guess who's here? Parker Retzlaff.
No
He
doubt.
gave the 21 car the show of the century to win that race. But on that final restart, it was being shared of spotter transmission. Spotter tells him, whatever you do under no circumstances, don't push the 21. What is he supposed to do? He's on the outside. 8 cars on the bottom.
Yeah.
That car's got an ECR engine in it. What's he supposed to do? Pull the crossover of the century and cause the pile up and race in under caution? What is he supposed to do?
I got to give Parker Retzlaff a lot of credit because
I do too.
He doesn't have a whole lot of Cup Series experience, but he went right back at them and said, hey, listen, I wasn't able to get down there. I mean, again, you doing the lane choice situation, and it just so happened that Kyle Busch decided to choose the lower lane in this case. He ends up in the lower lane. Well, when row 2 starts to step up there, he's running 4th. The 3rd place driver happens to choose the low lane.
Chris Bell.
This is Daytona. And this is a green-white checkered finish. I mean, at this point in time, allegiances are nice, but at the same time, it's every man for himself.
If they were wanting that to happen and have a Chevrolet push a Chevrolet, your control car, which was Kyle Busch, should have taken the top, or he could have been lined up with the 62 and had somebody locked in.
Yeah.
But he took the bottom with experience with Christopher Bell because he's been with Christopher Bell before, and he knows how Christopher Bell works.
Although I will say this, Parker Retzlaff proved to be, even in only his 2nd Cup Series race, proved to be a very, very reliable pusher. He was not to the point where he was going to put you as the pushee into a bad situation.
He did a very admirable job being the first super speedway race with a Cup car.
Yeah.
And we all know how those Cup cars can and will drive on a super speedway, because with the one rule change that they made, and I called my shot and I said it was going to happen, and it did. Mm-hmm. One, it got the car so stable that I can't recall the last time that we saw consistent 3-wide racing at Daytona for that long of a period of time.
Yeah. And if they keep, and what he's talking about, by the way, is this shark fin right here.
Yep.
That one's been there. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's basically just to try and help keep the car stable. They added this one because of those 2 flips, one in Xfinity and one in the Cup Series at Michigan.
Yep.
Trying to keep the air under it. Ask Josh Berry about that. That's another story entirely.
He had help.
If they keep this and we come with that package to Talladega, we're going to be 3 wide all day.
If not 4. If not 4.
Talladega's wider all the way around than Daytona is.
It's wider by, I think, 12 feet.
Yeah.
12, 14 feet.
A solid lane, a good, comfortable lane. If they keep that package, Talladega is going to get real interesting real fast. But going back to the Parker Retzlaff situation, him clapping back on him and going, hey, I'm going for a chance to win, because otherwise, what's he going to do? He either has to sit there and go to the outside and push the 21 to give himself a legitimate shot to win, or he's going to put himself down on the inside line and be in the 3rd row. And at that point in time, you have no idea what your future is going to be.
At the end of the day, the control of the race ends up in the hands of the man sitting in the seat.
Yeah.
Not the one on the spotter stand, not the one on the pit box. The man or woman sitting in the seat of the car. It's up to them to make the move to win the race.
Yeah. We have been pretty consistent about, especially on the big show, not so much here. We haven't talked about team orders that much. But team orders are really most prevalent when it comes to Formula One. And we have pretty consistently railed against them. We don't care for them.
No.
Now, in a specific situation where, say, you're at near the end of the season, and if the driver in front, I'll say it's me, but Matt here can clinch the title by winning the race, I could understand our car team owner coming over and go, Steve, let Matt buy so we can win the race and clinch the title.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. But in race 6, 7, race Daytona, when you have the chance to get one of the most historic wins ever, nope.
You go
Team
for it.
owners, company orders, in this case Chevrolet, no, sorry, that goes out the window. And it especially goes out the window at a Daytona or a Talladega because at the end of the race, everybody who's in that front pack legitimately has a shot to win.
It was back probably, I think it was 17 or 18, if I can remember. They started with this. The manufacturers started sticking their toes in the ice bucket and going, oh, hey, we need to lock up and work together as manufacturers. Look what it's done to super, in a way, but it's phased itself out.
In some ways.
Look what it's done to super speedway racing. Now, if let's say I'm in a Mustang, Terry's in a Camry, Steve's in a Chevrolet. All right. Steve's his Chevrolet partners, his car just will not go. It will not go. It will not go. My car won't go with Mustangs. But if I see Kerry get shuffled to the third lane and he's by himself going to the back and I've got a chance to jump up and try to gain position and push him, and my car's working well with the Camry, or the Camaro's working better with the Camry, or the Camry works better with the Mustang, however you want to see it, you find the man where your car works the best.
Absolutely.
To get yourself to the front, because at the end of the day, it's about winning the race, not a manufacturer allegiance.
Yeah. And we see the strategy all the time, and we have the Chevrolets come down with the Chevrolets during green flag pit stops. Fords then come with the Fords and Toyotas with the Toyotas.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, there's an outlier. I get that. I understand that. You want to kind of try and keep everybody together. But as you said, if your car's not working well with your other makes, and that happens from time to time, you're going to start searching around and find who it is that you work best with. And if they happen to have another mark, so be it. The idea at the end anyway is once you're coming off of turn 4 or going through the tri-oval at Talladega, since the start-finish line's a little bit further past instead of right in the middle of the tri-oval, you're trying to make that final move coming off of turn 4 at Daytona or coming through the tri-oval at Talladega to make a slingshot and make it side by side, and then it's just a drag race to the finish line and see who gets there first and give yourself a chance to win. That's what Chevrolet should be most happy about, is that they have a young driver who's smart enough to understand I'm in it for myself at this point in time. I got to go for it. If I got the chance to win, this is it.
Take it while you can get it.
That's it. So congratulations again to the Wood brothers. Congratulations to Harrison Burton. Not necessarily certain he's going to find a Cup Series ride. Those are kind of drying up pretty quick. And from the links that we're hearing, his name has really never been mentioned. Xfinity Series?
Different story.
I think this opened up some eyeballs, even though I think probably eyeballs were already open because
they were.
He's a good kid.
They were.
All right. Second up, let's talk about Austin Dillon. We talked about this on the podcast. We talked about it on the big show. That situation right there. You remember that at the end of Richmond? Dive bombs into turn number 3 on the last lap at Richmond and takes out Joey Logano, and not shown, takes out Denny Hamlin. NASCAR has long said, and I can't even remember how many years old this is, but NASCAR has long said and had a long-standing policy of the person that you see hoisting the trophy in victory lane is the winner, period. They're going to do their level best to make sure that that driver carries on and holds that win. In this case, Austin Dillon, who did cross the finish line first, does indeed get credit for the win. He's got 5 career wins. Mm-hmm. That doesn't change. What did change, what NASCAR penalized in this case for, was overly aggressive driving I don't know the specific rule that they cited, but either way, it's overly aggressive driving. And while he still gets credit for the win, that win does not count towards playoff eligibility. And if he should win this weekend at Darlington, then this win at Richmond would not count in the playoffs. Gone.
He's not going to win Darlington.
He's not, but still, we'll throw it out there just because there's that 0.001% chance that he might hoist the checkered flag at Darlington. The win at Richmond, while it counts to his career stats, does not count in any other way, shape, or form towards the playoffs this year. That's it. Okay? So they appealed it. The three-person panel overturned it. They appealed it again, and you have 2 appeals in NASCAR. And because this has playoff implications, they sped up the hearing process. The final appeal is to one person. It's one-on-one. Richard Childress Racing and Austin Dillon versus the appeals panel. The one guy who, by the way, said, yeah, I agree with NASCAR. It was overly aggressive driving. We can't have that. And by the way, it sets a bad example for those in the Xfinity Series, those in the Craftsman Truck Series, those in ARCA, those in the Whelen Modified Tour, and those in every weekly local racing track all around the United States of America and the world. Upheld the appeal. Richard Childress Racing has nothing else that they can do except complain, which they already are.
We're severely disappointed in it. You get that social media mop story, whatever you want to call it. Well, we're severely disappointed in it. We don't believe this is right. We're going to appeal. You had no grounds to even appeal to start with. Let it go. Because as I said a couple of weeks ago, the SMT data that depicts every single move that race car makes was way against him.
Oh, yeah.
Just remember these numbers. Lap 407, steering, negative 3.7 to the right. Same point of the track, lap 408, positive 33.9. There's a difference.
Yes, there is.
You did it on purpose.
Yeah.
Let it go. Yeah. Move on.
The other aspect of this actually takes the first primary story of our day here, which is Harrison Burton and Austin Dillon, and matches it up. Initially, before the penalty had even been announced, this put Austin Dillon in the playoffs, put him in as the, I think, 13 seed at the time. 13. He had jumped up from 32nd in the standings. And there were a lot of people that are going, really? Should the person who was sitting 32nd in the standings really be allowed to get into the playoffs? By the rules.
The 21 car said, hold my bottle of quick lane motor oil.
But here's the thing. By the rules, per the NASCAR rules, when it comes to doing this, they opened it up. If you are a full-time driver, didn't matter where in the points you might be, if you were a full-time driver and you won a race, you get in the playoffs. So Austin Dillon's in. Then he was obviously out. Even worse now, we got a whole bunch of people that are wondering, should Harrison Burton be in the playoffs? Where was Harrison Burton in the points before he won the race at Daytona?
That would be 34th.
Almost dead last.
Out of 35 full-time drivers.
Almost dead last.
Yeah.
Do we honestly believe that the 21 car is going to advance from the round of 16 to the round of 12? Not really. But you know what? Here's the thing about the playoffs. And this is why the NCAA expanded out the playoffs from 4 to 12. This is why the NFL has as many teams in the playoffs as they do. Major League Baseball, the NBA, the NHL, they all have the number of teams that they do in their playoffs. If you can make the playoffs, what you do with it at that point in time is up to you. Everybody's got a shot. Some better chances than others because, let's face it, sometimes your football, your baseball, your hockey, your basketball team is better than others. Sometimes because of what you did during the regular season, from the Daytona 500 to Darlington this weekend, you had a better regular season than the 21 or the 3 car. But you know what? That's because that's what you were able to accomplish. Either way, you make the playoffs, you got a chance. What are you going to do with it while you're there? I don't really have a problem with this side of it. There have been several rulings that I can say, yes, I've had a problem with when it comes to NASCAR, and you can as well. I know, Matt. But in this case, I don't really have a problem with this. You're a full-time racer. You run all the races. You buy all the rules, are eligible if you win a race to get into the playoffs. Why stop it at 30? Let's go to everybody that's down the road. In this case, 35 total. Shouldn't they all be eligible for the playoffs?
I don't have a problem with the 21 car being in playoffs.
Here we go.
I don't have a problem with the car and the team. It's the Wood brothers. They are a staple within the sport since day one. That's 1949, 1950. Day one. Okay. The problem I have with this is the driver that is just struggled. He's been so far in left field, he's past the left field foul pole.
I don't disagree with that.
It needs to go back to a rewarding of consistency. As in, it doesn't need to be top 30. I think it needs to be top 28. Top 28. All right.
28 seems a random number. I'm going to ask you why you chose 28 as opposed to, say, 25. And that's just asking.
I was just throwing a number out there.
Okay.
Top
right.
20. Let's say top 28.
Okay.
Top 20. Let's go top 25.
Okay.
All right. Top 25 rule. You need to be within the top 25, which that is rewarding a level of consistency.
That is true.
On a weekly basis.
Yeah, that is true.
Because let me ask you this question. That's this question right here, and then we're going to have a scenario here. I'm 31st in points. I have just struggled my ever-loving tail off all year long. I've completed laps. It's either been wrecks have happened out of my control, mechanical failures happen out of my control, or just the car just will not hook up in a 40-acre field. It just won't do nothing. We got Kerry over here. Kerry is 15th in points. He's consistently within the top 15 every week. We got Steve constantly within the top 15 every week. They're fighting for the last two spots. They're 15th and 16th in the playoff standings. They've been close to winning races. They haven't won a race yet. They've just been within a fraction. Okay. And this is me speaking from the sense of I've got the helmet on. I'm thinking out of fairness to my competitors. I'm not one of those, when I strap the helmet on, I'm just going to be the dirtiest son of a you-know-what on the face of the earth. I'm going to run you clean. I'm going to try to beat you clean. But if you so much as touch me or been a fender, just think of what Rowdy Burns said in Days of Thunder.
Race me the way that you want to be raced.
Race me the way you want to be raced. I'll race you clean all day long. Back up to my point here. If I sneak through and come out of left field after a 2-week break,
Sound familiar?
I go up and I just absolutely walk off and win the race. After I'm sitting 31st, 32nd in points, I come back after a break, I win a race. Does that give me the right to automatically step in and take one of their spots when they've been way more consistent than I have? Because the odds of me being a playoff field filler and being bounced after round one are through the roof.
Sure. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Same way with the 21 car. It's through the roof.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you and I said this. You and I said it after the 3-car won, and we're saying it now after the 21-car won. Do we honestly believe that either Austin Dillon or Harrison Burton would have made it out of round one? No. I wouldn't have chosen that, and we'll make our playoff picks on the big show coming up here in a couple of weeks. I would not have selected Austin Dillon, and I will not, in all likelihood, choose Harrison Burton to get out of round one.
I'm going to throw another name out there. It's somebody that is very, very good at Darlington that has been in a mid to back marker car this year because they cannot hit their you-know-what this year. Eric Jones.
Yeah. Eric Jones has 2 wins at Darlington. He is a threat there. There's no doubt about it.
He's a very serious threat there. All right. 43 car comes up and wins Southern 500. Guess what that puts in? You've got, in a 3-week stretch there, 3, 21, 43 wins a race. What's the most 3 popular numbers in the sport of the history? 3, 21, 43. 3, 21, and 43. Well, say Eric Jones does win. 21 and 43 are in the playoffs. The 3 screwed himself out of the playoffs.
True.
By just being stupid. But if you back up and he's in the playoffs, it's better than 85% odds that the first 3 cars, or 3 of the first 4 cars that are bounced out of the playoffs, 3, 21, 43.
Yeah. Martin Truex Jr. in this particular scenario probably makes the playoffs.
And if I'm Ross Chastain or Bubba Wallace, I've got flames flying out of my ears.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can
and
understand
rightfully
that.
so.
But again, I'm going by the rules as they are set.
Yeah.
And since they put the rules this way, I don't have any problem with Harrison Burton being in there. Go out there and give it your best shot. Do I think that you really legitimately have a chance of getting out of round 1? No, I don't. Not
a snowball's
you know
chance, and you know what?
Try it, and let's see. Should this rule be revisited?
Absolutely, it should be.
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, it was set to you had to be in the top 30. Should it be reset to that? Should it be reset to the top 25? I don't know. That's something that's beyond my pay grade. But I could agree that, yeah, it probably does need to be revisited because, again, knowing where we are, and we're PA people at Talladega Superspeedway, we know this probably as well, if not better than most people. With 3 of those kind of races in the regular season, Daytona 500, Talladega in the spring, and just because of the winter, or just because of the Olympics and the break, not in this case, but generally the Daytona Revisited, what we now call the Coke Zero 400, is generally the final race before we get into the playoffs. All those 3 races are pure wild cards. Anybody and their brother who can keep up with the pack, as we said at the top of this podcast, can hoist the checkered flag in the trophy.
Just like if I'm presiding over the whole sanctioning body, there's going to be a threshold that you have to meet to be able to step up a level, simply because to improve the level of quality of competition.
So you're saying a check isn't going to do it?
No.
Well, there
not with me. ARCA's bottom line entry level. If you're going to step up the trucks, you need to meet either one of 2 thresholds, if not both. Let's just say one of 2 for the sake of argument here.
Okay.
One of 2 thresholds. You need to finish top 10 in the points for 2 years straight, or you need to win a minimum of 3 races in ARCA. Sound familiar?
Over the course of any period of time?
Over the course of a 2-year stretch.
Oh, okay. All right. Just checking. There are some drivers that are currently in the Truck Series that don't meet that threshold.
I'm going to keep my mouth shut on that one.
Well, but it's true.
But you're dead on the money. You're dead on the money. Go from trucks to Xfinity, you need to win a minimum of 5 races within a 2-year time span.
True.
5.
Wow.
It can be done.
I'm not saying that it can't be done. I'm just saying that's an interesting hurdle.
5 races within a minimum time span.
It's not the smallest of hurdles, but it's possible.
Xfinity, we're going to step it up by 2 races. You need to win 7 within a 3-year time span. Because Xfinity level is tougher.
It is.
Xfinity to Cup, 7 races within a 3-year time span. And there's really only one person, I take it back, 2 that can meet that threshold right now that I can name right off the top of my head. Austin Hill and Sam Mayer.
Mm-hmm. We give Cole Custer a break because he was Xfinity, then went up to Cup, and now is back in Xfinity. He's only been there for 2 years.
That's nobody that's been in Cup that eliminates Cole Custer, that eliminates Justin Allgaier.
There you go. Yeah, they've already been up there. They know what it's like.
Yes.
So, okay. Interesting. Very interesting. All right. So Darlington will set the playoffs field. That's going to be Sunday evening. Remember, it's Labor Day weekend. Whatever you're doing this weekend, have a safe and a happy one and enjoy the racing because there is a whole lot of it Saturday, Sunday, and yes, on Monday. The National Hot Rod Association is actually going to be out there running on Monday. Why are we showing you this track?
boy.
You might even ask what track this is. This track right here is located south of the border.
Olé!
It is called Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. It is in Mexico City. This track is the track that you will see Formula One running on later this year. This track is the track that you will see the NASCAR Xfinity Series and the NASCAR Cup Series run on next year.
In June.
In June. In Mexico City. I got no problem with the track. I've seen the track. I've watched. I haven't seen it personally. I haven't traveled to Mexico City, but I've watched the Mexico City Grand Prix on television. I like this track. It's a nice track. I don't have a humongous problem with the Cup Series going there. They've been there before. The Xfinity Series specifically ran 2 races there, in the mid-90s, I think it was?
2000s.
2000s. Okay. This will be a nice, challenging track. And SVG is going to be having a ball. Because Shane Van Gisbergen is going full-time in the Cup Series. We'll give you full details on that coming up on the Saturday show as well.
I'm time stamping it now, and I'm calling my shot. There will be over 40 cars trying to make the field with some heavy, very heavy guns to unload cars off the lift gates.
Yeah.
And somebody big is going to the house.
Sure.
Somebody big will go to the house.
Yeah.
And that's a long way to go in Mexico City just to get bounced.
Yeah. And who's doing the guarding? Because they're not flying those Cup and Xfinity Series cars to Mexico City. They're driving them in the 18-wheelers through some area that, let's just say, you wouldn't want to drive through.
Do the words drug cartel mean anything?
This is an interesting poll. And again, you want to run nationally, internationally, fine, run internationally. This, though, is the beginning of something that you and I got to talking about not that long ago. This race, slated for early June, if you're going, be prepared, it's going to be hot, is taking the place of the Spring Richmond race, effectively. Mm-hmm. We found out officially from Ben Kennedy of NASCAR, who is basically in charge of scheduling for all 3 top series. He oversees it all. He admitted, yes, Richmond will have 1 race next year, not 2, just 1, and Mexico City jumps on because of that. This is the start of something that I fear, to a certain extent, is going to become the new normal. Only a select few tracks, Daytona, Talladega, right now Darlington, are going to get 2 races a year. And almost everybody else, we've already seen it with New Hampshire, we've already seen it with Michigan, we've already seen it with Pocono, we're about to see it next year when it comes to Richmond. And
Dover.
God only knows how many other tracks. Yes, Dover is another one.
Texas.
Where we drop from 2 races a year down to 1, and we continue to spread out and put races out in different cities and different towns. Heck, they're talking about taking a street race, and if they decide to bow out of Chicago, they might go to San Diego. This is their desire. This is their so big of a desire to have the Cup Series in Southern California that they might consider a street race in San Diego. They're trying out different markets and going to different places. This is the continuation of what we have heard, one of the biggest complaints being out there. You're getting away from your roots. Well, NASCAR went away from their roots a long time ago.
Yeah, they left that coop a long time ago.
Yeah.
But with now it's being chirped a little bit louder, and it was on a Fox Sports article that Adam Stern shared yesterday about us looking more and more likely that Rockingham is coming back,
Which
for
is
trucks and Xfinity
not the worst idea on the planet.
on Easter weekend next year.
Okay.
All right. I thought about how I was going to word this on the drive over. You've got an international footprint within the sport already with your competitor base.
Sure.
Why is it necessary to have an international footprint with a racetrack that you're having to send arguably billions of dollars worth of equipment through probably the most hostile drive that you could ever drive on, whether you're on a bicycle or an 18-wheeler? Reason I say that is because last year I had a discussion and talked to a hauler driver that went to Mexico City the first round with the Xfinity Series, then called the Nationwide Series. His exact words were, and I'm cleaning this up, that is the biggest load of garbage I have ever had to deal with in my life, because they went in flights of three flights. There were 42 competitors. They went in flights of 14. They were escorted from the border at Brownsville, Texas, and Corpus Christi, all the way to Mexico City.
Not a short trip.
That's not a short trip. By Mexican federal police. Because why? You're going right through the heart of cartel country in northern Mexico, between Monterrey and Mexico City.
Yeah.
Why are we doing that when, guess what? Montreal's just right across the pond up north,
And
right across the lake.
We wouldn't need anywhere near that kind of security to get to Montreal.
This is
unreal.
We've got facilities that are within these United States that are more than deserving and more than sufficient enough to hold a cup race and an Xfinity race on the same weekend without having to send everybody and their mother and their third cousin just to escort haulers across the border, because we've got this. I'm not even going to word it that way. I'm not even going to word it that way. We've got this pressing thing we've got to do.
Yeah.
We don't have to do it. Road America, you left a perfectly good facility at Road America and had hundreds of thousands of people show up over a 3-day weekend of people that want you to be there.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. Again, this is going to be a triple header. NASCAR Mexico Series is going to be part of this weekend as well.
They are.
That's fine. You want the NASCAR Mexico Series to be a part of it? Guess what? We race at COTA in Austin, Texas. Have them up there.
I mean, you brought the V8 supercars from Australia all the way to Austin.
Sure.
Surely you can take the Mexico Series and hop right across the border and run a couple 100 miles up to Austin.
It's going to cost less than security. It's going to cost less than security. Only one series versus two.
And why are we... I've got a phrase that I'm having to catch myself. Why are we in this fantasy land that we have got to be in Southern California?
And
you don't.
Here's the side of it, though.
San Diego?
Yeah. But here's the thing for me. NASCAR, you want to be in Southern California, finish the construction of the track you own in Southern California. You own what we used to call Auto Club Speedway, Fontana, California. Remember it? You've torn up half the track with the intent on turning it into a short track. Finish the construction.
Oh, boy.
These are things that make us go, duh.
You have a footprint in the Southwest already.
Arizona, Phoenix,
Vegas,
and Vegas.
In Phoenix.
And truth be told, you have a foothold in California with Sonoma.
People in Vegas and people that want to go to a race, if they want to go to Vegas and Phoenix, they will just go from that Los Angeles metro area and go, psh.
Yeah. They'll do it all the time.
They will go. I promise you they'll go.
Sure. They do it all the time.
I mean,
Weekend jaunt to Vegas from Los Angeles is what, a 3-hour, 4-hour drive? Tops?
At least. But this, I wish they would get out of this fantasy land that we've got to go here or we've got to go there or we've got to go up here or we got to go south of the border. Next thing you know, we'll be loading up cargo jets and going to Tokyo before too long. Back to Suzuka.
We did it 3 years in a row.
Next thing you know, they'll be reviving the old Calder Park Thunderdome in Australia. We'll be going back there. Who knows? We'll be going to Surfer's Paradise.
Yeah. Is NASCAR truly trying to become a world traveling series? I'm not so certain that's going to work.
And it's not going to work because guess what? You will run teams out of this series in a hurry.
Yes.
We're trying to cut costs, but guess what? You're increasing your costs.
Yeah. This becomes really expensive really fast. So we'll be keeping an eye on this because the charter agreement still has to be dealt with. And that charter agreement is also dealing with the split in money. That will have a lot to say about how long this track is on the schedule.
A lot.
Because it costs a good amount of money to drive the distance from Charlotte, North Carolina to Mexico City and back.
Somebody put a graphic, a breakdown of how far the furthest tracks are. It was Mexico City ended up, I think, being like the fifth longest one, like barely under 2,000 miles. Okay,
Charlotte to Sonoma's longer.
Yes, Charlotte to Sonoma way longer. Charlotte to L.A. longer. Charlotte to Phoenix longer. Charlotte to Vegas longer. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, we're cutting distance down, but look how much you're having to add just to have the haulers even cross the border to get to Mexico City.
Yeah, because you think Mexico is footing the bill for the police escort to get them from the border to Mexico City?
No.
NASCAR's footing that bill. Who's ultimately going to end up footing that bill? The teams.
Just like we footed the bill for $50 million to tear up Memorial Coliseum in Los Angeles for what? Nothing.
Yeah.
And now you're going to go to North Carolina where you've had one sitting all along. Oh, we're going to go to Bowman Gray. There's a brain buster.
Why didn't we do that in the first place? There are movements that are being made that, trust us, we'll keep you abreast of here on Cross Flags and on the big show on Saturday, CRN. But you're going to be shaking your head and you're going to be questioning it. And guess what? We're going to be right there with you. Speaking of being with you, we will be with you again, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time on Saturday morning. Don't forget to join us there, CRN Live, and join us again next week as we bring you another edition of Crossed Flags right here. Don't forget to download it. It's right down there. We appreciate you doing it, and like and subscribe to the pages as well because, hey, that's going to help us a lot too. We appreciate you. We'll talk to you Saturday and next Wednesday.
You've been listening to Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. For more content like this, subscribe to CRN Live on YouTube, and you'll be set to catch the 2-hour live show every Saturday morning at 9 Eastern, 8 Central.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.